Hey guys, this is Chris and y'all, the host of No Holding Back. Today we'll be discussing Spider-Man Miles Morales that was announced yesterday at the PS5 launch event. This is getting a lot of people excited. I know me and my friends are can't wait to actually purchase this game. I know the PlayStation 5 right now, the price tag for that is a little steep right now. Some people are willing to spend $800. I am currently not down for that, even though Spider-Man Miles Morales looks exciting. It looks as good as Spider-Man that came out in 2018 on the PlayStation 4. I'm still not convinced. I'm gonna have to wait a little bit, maybe for Boxing Day, get it for a cheaper price. But anyways, today we're gonna be dissecting and sharing our predictions of what we would like to see and what should be changed compared to the last Spider-Man game. And today we got my boy, my friend, very good friend that knows the shit about Spider-Man, huge fan, and that is Costa Marinides. So welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. So today I want to start by talking about your feelings about the game. What do you think is going to be included in this game? What should not be included in this game? What should happen in the story to tie in to the following Spider-Man 2 game that we know that will be introducing the Green Goblin and Venom, which is probably going to be Harry instead of Eddie Brock
Yeah.
for the moment. So I just want to get your thoughts about the introduction of Spider-Man Miles Morales and the fact that it was not Spider-Man 2 that was announced yesterday.
I think it's gonna be a pretty good game, honestly. I know everyone is expecting Spider-Man 2, but for now, this is pretty good because they're expanding on Miles' story, so I'm pretty excited to see that. Basically, I think of it as a Spider-Man 1.5 and not a 2, because they're not continuing anything that they did from the first game. They're just focusing on him becoming his own hero in a way. And they said it's gonna be its own standalone game, kind of like a spin-off. So I think it's gonna be cool to see how Miles plays out.
I'm just like hoping that Miles Morales does not really start facing big time villains. That's like an elderly Spider-Man, like in his 20s, like this
Yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah.
in this universe, which is 23 years old, starts facing one. Like I don't want to see him start like facing against like some like Sinister Six like hybrid or something. Like he's just started as Spider-Man. He's learning about his abilities, how to use them, when to use them. Um, he probably doesn't even understand his own strength at the moment. He's, I would say,
Exactly.
16, 17 years old
Yeah.
in this universe. I'm pretty sure it takes place 6 months to a year later, after the events of Spider-Man 1. So I'm just hoping that they give him good like villains to work with, but not like villains that are tied into Peter Parker. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, they're gonna give him his own separate villains, I guess, from the comics and the animated movies. I personally think the main villain of the game will be Prowler because, well, first of all, that's his uncle, so I think Insomniac likes to do those deep connections with the heroes and the villains. So I guess I feel like that's gonna be his main villain, which is not really a main Spider-Man villain. It's more tied to Miles Morales. And I feel like yeah, he will be the main villain, but others like he won't have like you said the main bad guys as Peter fights in the game. He'll fight on like smaller types. I don't know, like maybe like how can I say this? Not big bads, but like
C-list
monsters. I'd say
villains,
yeah, C-list
basically.
villains. I'd say yeah.
And I actually created a list of villains that I would like to see in this game. Um, and this ties into what you're saying about more of like a creature type of villain. And I got a couple of those on my list. So obviously,
Mm.
at number one, I have Prowler, which is his uncle. So
Yeah,
in this game, I think we're gonna see his uncle step in as a father figure, replacing his dad that
which
perished in the first one.
yeah,
Um, it might, and I hope that they don't do this, turn it into like a Doc Ock and Peter Parker storyline where like Prowler ends up becoming bad, and like
Mm,
Miles finds out, and then it starts this whole shit story about like how his idol, his father
yeah.
figure, is a villain. Now he has no father figure. Same thing that happened in the first Spider-Man. So I really hope they
Right.
don't go that route. I hope that they change it up a little bit. Maybe Prowler becomes an anti-hero, or maybe he just stops everything because maybe Miles's life is more important. I don't know what they're gonna go with that, but he's definitely gonna be the main villain.
I feel like they will kind of go that route. But if they, because they might try following the Into the Spider-Verse movie as because Miles just he looked up to his uncle in that movie, and then when he found out it was the Prowler, everything changed. So I feel like they could go up that route, but also I feel like if Norman Osborn is somehow in this game, he might hire his uncle to chase down Spider-Man. If anything,
But
they
which
could do that.
Spider-Man? Because now there's two.
That Miles Spider-Man.
And we already seen like the different abilities that he possesses, the like electronic like push or like wave, sonic boom type of thing, whatever you want to call
Oh,
it.
the
He has
Venom
that
blast. Yeah,
ability.
yeah.
Um, Not only that, he's more, I would say, uh, not skilled, but more dynamic with his swinging. He's more like creative. He's like when he swings compared to Peter. He does like
Yeah. I
those
feel
additional flips, and I don't know how to really describe that.
I feel like he's that way for now because he's not as fluent as Peter is. Because Peter's been doing it for 8 years now, and he's still like inexperienced. So I feel like he's gonna become more fluent with it, more smooth later on.
Yeah, and this is a young Spider-Man. This is
Yeah,
Miles Morales. He's being trained. He doesn't really know what responsibility is. Peter's really like his Alfred or
he's
his
a mentor in the game, kind of.
his mentor
Yeah,
in the game, to be honest. And I don't expect him to make a huge appearance. Maybe towards the end that connects it to Spider-Man 2, or
yeah.
maybe you're just gonna see him talking through audio.
I
Like
believe
through
we
an
could. Yeah,
earpiece.
I believe we might get like one visual appearance of him, but mostly we're gonna hear him through audio, like communicating with Miles
Because
or
he
with
is
the
his
mask.
mentor, and Peter's
Yeah.
gonna play a big part in this game, but not in the way that people expect. I don't see him being a playable character.
Oh no, I don't think that either. It's mainly focusing on Miles.
And then again, this game, I'm just like assuming, was probably in development while they released the 2018 Spider-Man. So if they were like
Yeah.
making this game for the last 2 years, 3 years, it's not gonna really be. I don't think the map is gonna be as big, or they're not gonna be as creative as they were with Spider-Man, because obviously the Spider-Man game took way more years to develop.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I don't think the map will be as big as the Spider-Man game. They might close some areas off, but in the trailer, it looks like a different area than Manhattan. Like I feel like they will open up Brooklyn because that's where Miles is from, and they also said that in Spider-Man 2, there are gonna be different areas to explore. Like they could add Queens and Brooklyn. So I'm saying that in this game, they will have a bit of Manhattan, but also Brooklyn to give us a little taste of what's gonna come in, what they're gonna add in Spider-Man 2.
And not only that, but like I want them to include like the suburbs. Like he's still in high school, right? So I
Yeah.
want to see like them like tackle like his high school life, his high school relationships, kind of like a younger Peter Parker. So,
Okay.
uh, I forgot. I think it's Spider-Man Unlimited or Unlimited Spider-Man, whatever it's called. That was came out like in 2005 or six.
Oh, Ultimate Spider-Man
Yeah, Ultimate
with
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Venom. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I know the map wasn't as huge because it was a lot of the time they didn't really have the software to do that.
Yeah.
But they added the suburbs where Peter was from,
hmm
and they also added the city, and that's something that they have to do for the Miles game, or at least for Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I agree. They should honestly. It'd be cool to explore the suburbs as in swinging through there, seeing what's happening.
And going back to the list of villains that I included in this game, um, I have two villains that you really can say that they're Spider-Man villains, but I feel like they haven't. They were kind of teased a little bit in the first game. But at this point, like Mysterio was already introduced in the last Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland.
Yeah.
So, considering the fact that he wasn't put in the first Spider-Man game, why not just put him in this game and
Mm,
make him a villain that Miles can confront?
they could put him in there because he's fought in Mysterio in animated shows and in the comics, so I feel like they could put him in there if they want to put him in the second one, negate Spider-Man. Because in the second one, they already have planned Venom and Goblin, so I'm guessing
Yeah,
that they could
exactly.
put Mysterio in this one. Yeah,
Yeah, and like we already saw in the Halloween mission
because I was gonna
where
mention that. Yeah,
like he was like teased, even the lizard was teased. But to put
exactly.
the
Yeah,
lizard
yeah.
and Mysterio both in this game, I don't think so. I feel like Dr. Connors is better suited in
For
the
Peter.
Spider-Man 2 because he's a connection with Peter,
Yeah,
he was his professor. So when the symbiote is introduced, I feel maybe he could go to Dr. Connors, and Dr. Connors at the same time is working on his formula uh, to get his arm back, and that maybe turns him to the lizard. So not only do you have the Green Goblin, uh, Venom, but
would
you
you have the
also
lizard
have
too?
the lizard too. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously,
Yep.
every game includes a vast majority of A-list or B-list villains, like the Batman Arkham games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Peter's story should include the lizard. It's more connected to him. But another big name, and he's only been gaining attention recently, and that is Morbius, because Morbius
Yeah,
is getting his own movie this year. So I feel like introducing Morbius at the same time as he gets a standalone movie is the perfect time because the buzz is gonna be there. He's in this game
yeah,
and he's
I
in the
agree.
movie. It's the perfect time to include him. And he was more of a C-list villain before.
He
I think
wasn't that popular.
exactly, and I think the only time they really introduced him was in the 1990 Spider-Man animated series, and it was maybe for 2 episodes. And they didn't. Back then, they weren't allowed to showcase like
Mm-hmm.
blood and stuff, whatever. So he had
Yeah.
like these like I don't know, like these
Actually,
octopus like hands or something like to suck up like
yeah.
plasma or
Yeah,
something, which was
exactly. So
really
he wasn't allowed to
stupid.
bite. Yeah, and
Yeah,
actually, it was more actually a couple episodes. He had a pretty decent role actually. They built up his character to be Michael Morbius, the student, and then turning into the vampire.
yeah, and not only that will that be portrayed by Jared Leto in the next uh, Sony verse movie,
No,
but also I think they should really include him. And like we were saying, we both agreed on more monsters in Miles Morales' gallery of rogues.
no,
So I think Morbius would be a good addition. Apart from that, include I have Manwolf and the Jackal. Those are both
oh yeah,
um, monsters as well. Manwolf, obviously, he's a werewolf, and
yeah.
Jackal, he's like a goblin.
He's a goblin type. Yeah,
He's like a goblin type. But he's more like hairy, I would say, and his ears are way pointier, and he has like pointier teeth too.
pointed to yeah. He's a skinnier version of like the monster Green Goblin, I'd say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's just less effective. Doesn't have like fucking pumpkin bombs or anything. Doesn't have a
No, no,
glider.
yeah.
He literally has like monster features: big feet, claws, big hands. Literally, like he's like one of those like fucking things that like try to dry hump you in your fucking nightmares or something.
I
Uh,
don't say that.
and the last two villains I have on this list are actually villains that were in the comics that Miles Morales fought, and
Mhm.
that's Omega Red and Kangaroo.
No,
They're not really known to many people, but I think this is a perfect time to introduce
need
those
to
guys.
introduce them to see, bring them on. But I feel like all these villains that we just named, I feel like they could be the side villains, like side missions.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was
yeah,
going at. Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I was kind of in my focus on.
And like we keep the main villains, something with Oscorp and the Prowler.
Yeah,
Because I don't know if you saw it in the trailer, but when Miles was he was on a police car, he was like hopping from car to car, and then you see I don't know if you saw a bike fly over the car with a purple like streak behind it. I believe he's probably chasing Prowler in that scene.
but then again, like not. only is that his uncle, but it's like he doesn't even know that's his nephew. And
Oh yeah,
his both their relationships, once they both discover wwho they really are under those masks,
yeah,
are gonna change dramatically.
hundred
And
percent.
will Prowler die? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah,
But if they try to go to Doctor Octavius route again, and they try to make it like very similar, honestly, just kill Prowler
mm.
because
Yeah. So it won't be exactly
it's
that.
gonna
Yeah,
give a different um I don't know formula to the already used story, and not only that, like it's gonna you know add more depth to Miles Morales' idea of responsibility, becoming more mature and
yeah,
dealing with loss, like Peter did. Peter lost to Gwen Stacy. I don't know if she's in this universe, but we don't know yet.
yeah.
Um,
No,
Dealing with Uncle Ben. Now Aunt May's dead. You
yeah,
know, it piles on, man. And
for
Miles
sure.
Morales, we can't just stick to his father's death. He's not like Batman, where he lost his parents.
No,
These two characters are usually portrayed as more gleefully and more like comic relief. But in reality, these characters both are kind of like dark. They have sad lives.
for
Um,
sure.
it was just like adapted towards like the late like maybe 90s that like Spider-Man stories became less dark and more quirky and stuff. And with Ultimate Spider-Man, it became a little bit more dark when Spider-Man dies at the hands of the fucking
Goblin, Sinister
monsters, the
Six.
Green
Yeah,
Goblin. I don't know what the fuck that was. And Miles Morales takes over,
think
or
so.
he's
Yeah.
already like established, I would say.
I feel
But
like that will happen later on, though, in this Spider-Man universe. It's
I
gonna
don't know if
happen.
Peter's gonna die. That's the thing. Do I really want Peter to die? It's kind of too predictable. That's the thing.
Yeah, it kind of is predictable, but I guess like they kind of have to go now that they introduced Miles, because like Peter's already 23. He's been doing it for 8 years. So since they introduced Miles, I feel like in the third game they're gonna kill him off, and then Miles might take over.
But this is like one thing that I would like love to see, and not because like I want to see like I don't know like Peter live, and I'm trying to be like biased towards Peter and like I hate Miles because honestly, I wasn't a big fan of Miles Morales until Into the Spider-Verse. Once I
Okay.
watched that movie, I fully understood that this guy is capable as being the next replacement or
Yeah.
for Spider-Man. You have like Dick Grayson as the next Batman. And people are all okay with that because they know who Dick Grayson is since 1940. I would say
Whatever, something. Yeah.
whatever it is, 1940s.
Yeah.
So people are okay with that. Miles
I feel like
Morales was introduced in the early 2000s.
yeah, it was just 2011 if I'm not mistaken. But I feel like a lot of people felt that way about Miles Morales. He didn't really care about him, didn't really like him that much. They only focused on Peter. But me, like I found he was not a bad character. Like I didn't know too much about him like back then when he first it came out. But as the years went on, like I kind of liked him. But now with the Into the Spider-Verse movie, I appreciate him even more. I'm like, okay, this guy, is pretty cool. I like him more as a character now, and I don't mind seeing him in the games take over. But I still obviously prefer Peter.
But getting back to like the controversy that might lead to the to what I'm basically gonna say. Um, I think maybe they should kill off Miles and let Peter live, and then make Peter live with that burden of like, fuck, man, like I was like grooming this kid and I failed because it would be too
Mm,
predictable if Peter is the one to die. We've seen it into the Spider-Verse, we've seen it in the comics. Now you're gonna see it in the games.
yeah.
You know, like I
So
just
you kind of want like a Batman Jason Todd thing, but not coming back to life, like him just staying dead and Peter like living with that his whole life.
yeah, and I see that happening more in the third game.
Yeah. I mean,
Because right now Sony is trying to not only enhance Miles Morales' character, but to basically throw it upon us to be like, this guy is in this universe. We don't care if you're gonna like him. You're gonna like him because you're gonna buy this game because it's Spider-Man and it ties into Spider-Man 2. So if you don't get this game, like you're kind of missing out on a lot of info and character development.
No, yeah.
So, I mean, even if he lives or dies, like our sense of like either mourning or excitement is gonna be actually felt because there's that development. You know, this is not gonna be a useless character that dies. I'm like, okay, we don't give a fuck. Peter Parker's alive.
Yeah.
Yay, that's all that matters. You know what I mean? So
Well, I feel like that's what another reason they're doing this game is so people can get even more attached to him, exploring his character even more. So they for sure have big plans for him later on in the other Spider-Man games, or if he gets even a sequel to this game. They want
yeah,
people to get attached to him.
I think what they're gonna do is that they're always gonna use Miles Morales' character as an in betweener between the Peter Parker storyline.
Yeah.
So you have Spider-Man 1, then you have Miles Morales 1, then you have Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales 2, and then after you have Spider-Man 3, and then maybe after that they can make a Miles Morales 3 and um, show what happens after the aftermath after Peter dies, or they ended at Spider-Man 3 and that's it. Either if Peter lives, I don't see another game being developed. If Miles
Yeah.
Morales lives and Peter doesn't, then there's a very good chance they're gonna make a third one and a completion to that.
Yeah, exactly, like a trilogy for both characters. Like you said, if he dies in the third one, I feel like they will make a Miles Morales 3, and him being, okay, now I live in a world without the real Spider-Man, so it's up to me when he's experienced now, he knows what to do and everything, so he can do it on his own. Not like maybe in now this game and in the sequel, if they make one, he's a bit more, he's less experienced, still a rookie kind of.
But I feel like he's gonna have if they do make a third one to his story, it's gonna be him coping with the death of Peter Parker and always feeling um like he's not the true Spider-Man. He's
Like he
not
can't
the
live
real
up to his
Spider-Man.
legacy.
Like he's the Spider-Man that everyone knows. You know, no one
Yeah.
really knows this Spider-Man. He's like maybe people might say that he's making a mockery of Spider-Man.
Mm.
Is he's a copycat. He's he's
But I
full of
mean, by the
shit, you
time
know.
when the third game comes out, like I feel like he will build a reputation for himself. But I feel like people will be like, "Oh, Miles Morales is Spider-Man's sidekick and not his own superhero."
But
You know
maybe
what I
they
mean?
should keep it as just a sidekick. Maybe they shouldn't kill him off. Maybe they should kill nobody at this point. Just keep both. Why do we have to
And they
always see
could.
somebody die? You
Yeah.
know, everyone always wants to see that major death all the time. You know, and you know, like it's just too predictable. But making a trilogy for both um, characters, if you look at the standpoint of making money for Sony,
Yeah.
you're literally going to be racking up fucking millions. Like
Exactly. And that's another reason I feel like they will continue to do these because Sony wants, they like money. That's all they want.
this is this is taking the place of the Batman games. This
Yeah,
is your new
100%.
Arkham
It's like another Arkham
verse
franchise,
of
basically.
or
It's
franchise
Spider-Man's
basically.
universe.
It's Spider-Man's universe, like, but Batman is the one that started it all. Obviously, there's a new
Yeah.
Batman game in development. It's been fucking teasing us this whole time. We don't know what's gonna happen exactly. Um, when it's gonna be coming out. There's so many rumors that it's this month, next month. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally, I'm just tired of hearing it. Whenever it comes out, it comes out.
Yeah.
But at this point, you know, I just want the Spider-Man games to succeed and not be viewed as a copycat of um, Batman games because that's gonna suck
Yeah.
if that is. But I mean, it already established the stuff enough, I would say, from the first Spider-Man game. But there's a lot of elements that refers back to the Arkham games.
That's the thing. When the first Spider-Man came out, a lot of people thought it was a copycat of the Arkham games because of the fighting style and everything. But I personally believe that it's better than the Arkham games. Like I know it's only one game compared to 3, 4, but like I feel like they're gonna be better these games now.
And another thing that people forget about, Insomniac. Did I pronounce that properly?
Insomniac, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Just making sure, man. Don't want people writing in the comments. Oh, this guy, he can't fucking talk properly. No, man.
Alright, good.
Yeah, they teased that you can customize your own costume in the first Spider-Man, but
Yeah.
that was never a thing. The only thing you really did was choose your own costumes that were available.
You can customize your abilities and how to like match them and stuff.
Yeah.
But the actual costume, yeah, you can't do that.
And I feel like what they should do in the next game, whether it's the Miles Morales game or Spider-Man 2, I feel that there should not only be suits available to you, but also you could. This is kind of like a stretch, but people are gonna be like, "Yeah, I wanted like my own materials and stuff." No,
No,
it's not good.
yeah.
What they should do is take the materials from the existing suits in the game and make your own hybrid with it. So you take the same like mask from like that one, you could change the color, of that model of a mask.
Yeah,
You
put
take
on
like
the
the
different
lower
suit.
part. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You take the
Okay.
lower part of another suit, change the color of it. That is like
Like your own really
that makes more
customized
sense.
suit. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
makes
I
more
wouldn't mind that,
sense.
but
And not only that, but like I really don't know what they're gonna do for Miles Morales' like costumes, that you could choose from. They can't really
yeah.
take Peter Parker costumes because
No.
that's kind of like what the fuck,
Yeah, he
that's
doesn't
not
have
Peter Parker.
a wide variety like Peter does in the comics, but I feel like he will have a few suits. Like he's gonna have obviously this one that he's wearing now, his classic suit. Alternate costumes, I feel like he'll have the Into the SpiderVerse one. I'll probably
Yeah,
put
that's
inside.
what I was gonna say. 100%.
The one at the end of the first Spider-Man game where he's just wearing the classic mask with his street clothes. I feel like they're gonna put that.
Yeah, I see that happening too.
The another one in Into the Spider-Verse, the one he bought at the store, they could put that one.
Hopefully,
Uh,
like this is like going back to another thing that was a problem in the first one. I really hope they don't like fucking make it a cartoon thing again. I hope they take the model of it and make it more into like a like real life costume. Like my perfect example is referring back to the Arkham games. If you look at Arkham City, the Batman animated suit
yeah.
is like literally a copy paste version of the animated series. But if you
Mm-hmm.
look at
How they designed it
Arkham,
with the
how
graphics
they
and stuff.
designed it, and like exactly how
Okay,
they
yeah,
designed
yeah.
it in another game, a follow up game. They took cartoon games, costumes,
Mm.
and put a real life take on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't
So
mind that actually because I find it's pretty cool directly from the comic books to the thing like without fixing all the graphics and stuff like matching how they do it. I wouldn't mind that at all. Like
like
I
they took
know in the first Spider-Man game or Into the Spider-Verse costume exactly how the animation is from the movie. They put it like that in the game.
but that's something that's like makes the game like a lot less realistic, and they did that with like the classic 1960s cartoon costume
Okay,
that they
yeah,
put in the first game as well
I
with
see
the
what you
red
mean.
and blue
Yeah.
costume. Like I just feel that they did it like just to say that we put a costume and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they could put it in the next game. I know they're gonna say Spider-Man games are more colorful, they're more like they're less serious, but like literally
Yeah.
you kill off Aunt May. You're gonna
Yeah.
have if you put Morbius in a game that's a fucking vampire that's gonna be sucking people's blood.
Mm.
You have Harry that's gonna probably be Venom killing people. Green
Yeah.
Goblin is not as crazy as the Joker, but like he's
He's up there with him, I
craziest.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the craziest villain that Spider-Man is gonna face in his in the
He's
universe
basically
in the game.
Spider-Man's Joker.
Yeah,
I have to
basically.
put it like that.
You know, especially that he's a split personality. You never know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Osborn is. Maybe he's a little bit too old, man. He's in his like early 60s. He's gonna be the fucking Green Goblin. Like,
No, in the game, no, he doesn't look that old. Honestly, I think late. I would honestly say late 40s, early 50s. Like he looks pretty
well,
young.
how old Doc Ock was what? In his 50s.
Doc Ock was, yeah, I'd say late 50s at least.
Okay, so if he's in his, as long, but they went to high school together or college, so they're gonna be the same age.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
And I think even in the character bio, it says he's like 50 something. So
Okay.
we're getting, and don't forget, Peter's 23 years old. It doesn't make sense that he's gonna go after like a 40-year-old like Norman Osborn. Like,
Yeah. So again, it makes sense that he's a bit older.
if you even look at the Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire, he's like 17, 18 or something like that, and he's facing up against a Norman Osborn that's in his mid-40s.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, if he's like, I kind of like want to backtrack and take back what I said about like him being too old. If he's in his 50s, whatever, you know what I mean. But if I start seeing him like bending his knees literally like half of the fucking game, literally that guy's gonna have a fucking problem with his knees.
But don't forget though, Green Goblin, like he has, he's in his late, whatever, 50s, but he does have the serum, whatever, it gives him superhuman strength and stuff, so he could manage to battle Spider-Man. Like he's not some just random 50-year-old.
Exactly. I just hope like they introduce the serum. Well, it is
Yeah.
Oscorp, so like they probably developed it by now, but it just hasn't been used.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they do that take, and they don't just say that he just loses his mind because Harry becomes Venom, and he just loses his shit, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna become a vigilante, and well, not a vigilante, but like a fucking villain.
A villain, yeah.
Wait, this is a question that I never understood. Vigilante means you're a hero, or you could be a villain.
Vigilante is more towards hero thing, but you're not a hero yet. You're like, it's like on the bottom of a hero, and like I don't know how to explain it that well. It's like,
because I never understood that. I was always like vigilante. I know it's like you're creating your own type of justice, but like
it's like you think you're a hero. I guess I would say like at that point, until you become an actual hero. I guess. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Just always wanted to know that, to be honest. And the last thing I want to cover before we conclude this episode is the side missions.
No.
I was looking at what types of side missions they should include, and if they should keep really anything that was introduced in the first game. The one thing and the only thing I think they should include is the crime missions, side missions. So basically, if someone's stealing a car, robbing. But
yeah,
my own little like take on it, a little twist on it, is basically they should not only base it just on like fucking carjackings and fucking robberies. They should they should introduce other crimes like drug deals.
Oh, but for sure, yeah.
And like I don't know what other crimes they should really include. Do you have any ideas on what they should include?
Oh, like you said, they're gonna keep the drug deals, the car chases, but I feel like they also include if the villain is probably like his gang, he might have like the hideouts, just like in the first game, similar to that. He can have something similar to what's her name, to Screwball, like in the first game with maybe Kangaroo.
Screwball,
like those types of missions. Yeah, I know she was
not
very
include
annoying.
a character like that.
Yeah,
that was literally
I feel like
the worst thing about the game.
Yeah, I know, I hated it so much.
It wasn't even fun. It was so repetitive.
Yeah, it was annoying. I agree. Yeah.
It wasn't a villain that you really wanted to like face, that you were down to do the missions because the missions were so boring. But the only thing that was really driving you is that you just wanted to fucking put her ass in jail because you couldn't stand her voice anymore. And
exactly.
Yeah. It's funny how Peter even acknowledges that. He says, "Wow, she's annoying and stuff."
Yeah, she was. I agree.
Maybe they did it on purpose. Maybe they did it to like as a comic relief to show that like what you're going through is what the character's going through. You're both annoyed,
No. Yeah, that makes sense.
I say that there should be more of less basic side missions where like you have to understand that he's a teenager. He's starting off, so like like maybe including those kids crying for their balloons, or like some kids like fucking animal or cat or something like in danger or something. Just for like a little, I don't know, just to show that like he's not really in the big times yet. Like they have to like. There's one thing that they cannot like introduce that quickly is that this kid is developing. He's learning the ways of Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
You can't have a crime fighter. You can't start throwing like these big mafioso mafia bosses and stuff, and he's facing all these like 300 types of like guys at the same time, like Peter is, you know.
No, no, I
Like,
agree. Yeah, they could have a mix, I guess, between like kind of like rookie-ish side missions, and then you have the better, like the higher ones. I guess I would say, like the
yeah, they
more
should.
extreme ones.
Yeah, they should definitely do that because um, I feel like it's gonna ruin the whole character development of like trying to introduce that the fact that like this kid is learning, he doesn't know responsibility as yet, and just stress the fact that this kid's still only in high school. He's only 17 or 18 years old.
No.
You know, he's gonna make mistakes, and I want hopefully in missions you see him like mess up.
Oh
And
yeah, that's what I want to see him messing up, and then he's gonna be calling Peter and like, "Oh, I messed up. What do I do now?" You know?
maybe even like fail to save somebody or something like that.
No,
And like this kid needs to go through what a lot of superheroes go through, and that is you can't always save everybody.
exactly.
Like you're a hero. People expect you to be everyone's savior, but you just can't be. You can't save everybody.
Can't save
You know,
everyone. Yep, I agree.
and obviously make maybe include like I don't know, like those bio missions where you gotta like collect like samples and stuff, or like
Um,
like that Harry thing. That
yeah,
was kind of really repetitive. I'm not too sure
but
if
I
they
feel like
should do
Miles. I
that.
don't think he'd have a reason to do those types of missions. I would say, like, I guess to replace it, similar types, but replace it with something else more related to him.
Do you think that like he might become like a photographer and like if you gotta take pictures and stuff,
Honestly,
you
that's
think
what I
he's
was
gonna keep
thinking
that
right now
element?
to include him as a photographer and stuff. But I don't know because in the comics, Miles is not a photographer, so I'm not sure.
Does he even have like a part time job in the comics? Like I totally
Um,
forgot.
well, not that I know of, honestly. No. I don't think
Because
so.
like I was thinking like create like a new like element for him to like do something around the city,
No.
like find an alternative to collecting school bags. Find an alternative to taking pictures, um, like I really don't know how they're gonna really tackle some of those side missions. Like if they really copy paste things from Peter, I
No.
just feel like they're just cheating him as a character. They're just
And they could
you
bring
know
in the classic pizza delivery missions from the old Spider-Man games, but connect it with Miles instead of Peter. I wouldn't mind that.
yeah, if they make him like look, Peter has done a lot of jobs. You
Yeah.
can't just be like, oh look, Miles is doing the same thing. Like okay, like and this is a different universe. He was a um, photographer.
Mhm.
He graduated in science. Obviously, that's why he's working with Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's a reference about him being a pizza delivery guy.
No, for Peter, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but I just feel they should give the kid a part-time job.
But
So it's like a dynamic.
in the first game, he was helping. He was volunteering at Feast. But now that Martin Lee is in jail, I'd say, and Aunt May is dead, like I don't know who's
Yeah.
gonna run Feast. I don't know if it's gonna continue. So maybe he'll probably take over, I guess, or Peter will start, I guess, take over a bit, and Miles will help him at Feast if it still continues to go on.
Well, if I feel like there's gonna be a new character introduced, because
Okay.
Mary Jane's already doing her own thing, and
Yeah.
maybe they could introduce Gwen Stacy.
I mean, they
Maybe she's
could, but
alive in this
I
universe.
feel like they should save Gwen for Spider-Man sequel, not the Miles game.
Well, maybe just introduce her, like she's like in the universe, like she took over Feast. Like she's like, maybe she's into that community service type of stuff, and like she's a
Okay,
very good friend
yeah,
of Peter. They maybe they have a past that they dated, or maybe they didn't, and they're just good friends, and she just takes over.
that's
Uh,
true. No,
I just feel like someone very close to Peter needs to take over. I don't see Peter dropping all his Stein stuff for the
for
Feast.
the yeah,
And Miles is way too young for that responsibility. Maybe it's his mom. Maybe his mom quits being a nurse and takes over Feast after, you know, um, I want to say Mary, Aunt
and
May
me,
dies,
yeah.
and she feels bad because Peter took him under his wing. Does Peter
That's a
even,
good point.
Peter lives with Miles now, right?
No, they don't live together. He just helped him move into his new apartment at the end of the game. But at Miles, but for sure, still lives with his mom.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I just feel like someone very close to Peter is gonna take over Feast. I highly doubt they're just gonna like literally shut down the whole damn place unless
No.
maybe Peter retires at the end of this trilogy. We don't know, and Miles just takes over, and maybe he just lives his normal life.
He could. He either retires or dies. It's one of the two options. Or he continues. You never know. Honestly, they could do anything.
Maybe it's a happy ever after, and they're just swinging into the sunset, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like Peter's gonna get engaged and get married in this universe. You know, they're gonna
Huh?
introduce that. You know, I see that him and Mary Jane moving forward. You know, they
No.
already had their problems. We already saw the breakup. We didn't see the breakup. We heard of the breakup, and then uh, getting back together.
No, they like
You know,
they're past all their problems now. They're back together.
yeah. You know,
Yeah.
maybe Peter goes back to photography to make up for the rent. You know, because now that he's not working for Doc Ock, maybe he opens up his own place. Because in the comics, he does open up his own place. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he has Parker Industries. And built that company. But wasn't that Doc Ock in his body, and then he built Parker Industries, and then
I have
when
no clue. Maybe I
the
think Norman Osborn died and he just like bought or like somehow like gained access to the company or something and just changed the name. That's what I think happened.
I don't know. I mean, I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
he's gonna. I don't know if doesn't have the money in the game to open up his own company, so he either might. You never know. He might work for Dr. Connors in the second or third one as a scientist there, if they
Or maybe
introduce
he
Dr. Connors.
reopens Dr. Octavius's company and just switches that slaps his name on it and
Yeah.
just removes him completely. Or maybe Doc Ock had the plan to always give his company to Peter once he passed on. Maybe
You
he
know?
is running his own thing right now. Like there's so many questions, there's so many ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
We just don't know what's gonna happen.
Even
But
Oscorp, he could work at Oscorp.
yeah, you know, we can't really stress any more of the ideas. I think we really covered everything. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Costa, for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Um, hopefully, in the upcoming months, towards working towards the 2020 holiday release. So it's going to be during the week of Christmas,
Yeah.
probably end of December. It's going to be released after the PlayStation 5 is launched
Mm-hmm.
in it's November or October. I'm pretty sure it's one of those 2 months.
So,
Yeah, and I know, like I was referring to in the beginning, you're one of those guys that are crazy enough to spend the $800 on the PlayStation 5.
I definitely get it, yeah, 100%.
Hey man, if you work and you have enough money, go ahead for it, man. I'm in the same boat as you
Mm,
when it comes to working and stuff. But do I really want to invest my money on a PlayStation 5 right now? Not
yeah.
really.
Sometimes you gotta spoil yourself, you know.
Yeah, but not for the moment. You know, like I'm just gonna maybe like I said, Boxing Day. Boxing Day. If I don't get it for Boxing Day, then you could watch this video and be like, this guy's a fucking hypocrite because he never got it. Anyways, I just want to say to all my fans, thank you for listening. Don't forget to new listeners to subscribe. Thank you once again, Costa.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, everybody, including yourself, Costa.